Hello, I'm Reginald Bullock, author of Father to Son, A Guide to Growing Up in a Difficult World. This next chapter 3, drugs, is significant. So, drugs have been around for a long time. There are drugs that have been legal and then determined illegal and then made legal again. um, what should you do with drugs, right? What do drugs do to you? There's a term called a drug store. Talk about an oxymoron. You go to a drugstore and they got tens of thousands of drugs that you can just buy. Um, so, this chapter is from a father's perspective of, my thoughts that I would like to impart upon someone, my son, daughter, or whomever, in the absence of nothing. Remember, I grew up in the streets of Philly, the hood, and you didn't have the kind of information out there to share with you what to do and what not to do and what things were about. So this chapter touches on that for those people who don't have that information, and those people who do, and I do it in a way that is very educational. So enjoy the chapter.
Chapter 3. Drugs. Alcohol. Son, there are some things about me, even if I told you, you would have a hard time believing it. Yes, I have experimented with drugs, and no, I am not going to list them. Let us look at why I did drugs. The first drug I experienced with is probably one of the most dangerous drugs on the market. It has killed more people than any other drugs I know of. It comes in thousands of varieties and has thousands of levels of potencies. It was the first drug I used, and I am happy to say I have kicked the habit. Alcohol. Alcohol is pure poison. I could tell you so many stories of myself in an inebriated state it would turn your stomach. I drank because my friends drank. I drank because it was the cool thing to do. I drank because all the cool guys on television drank. I drank because the commercials and advertisements told me to. I drank because I thought it would help me erase my problems. I drank because I wanted to prove I was a man. I drank because my mother drank, on occasions. I drank because I wanted to feel grown up. I drank because I did not know better. All the reasons I have given are just excuses. I almost crashed my mother's car a couple of times. I almost crashed my car several times. I fell asleep at the wheel and had to pull off to the side of the road. Fortunately, I have never crashed. I have blown lots of money because I was intoxicated, drunk. Contrary to popular belief, according to the National Safety Council, coffee is not successful at sobering up a drunk person, and in many cases, it actually increases the adverse effects of alcohol. Alcohol is a very dangerous drug, and yet the government is probably the biggest dope pusher of them all. Did you know that 1 out of every 13 adults over 20 years of age in the United States is an alcoholic? For them, the government literally makes millions of dollars and loses millions of dollars because of the sales and consumption of alcohol. The taxes received from the sales of alcohol generate an enormous amount of revenue for the government. A good research project would be to trace where every penny received by the government in the name of alcohol went. It would also be interesting to learn how the decisions for allocations of that money is made. As a citizen, we are entitled to know where, how, and why our tax dollar is spent. Yet most of us do not even care. Try it one day. Although it would be easy to say our government receives money in the name of alcohol, it should also be noted that our government also loses millions of dollars because of this drug. The accidents, deaths, hospital bills, court cases, prison terms, policemen, man hours, abandoned children, battered spouses, public service announcement, paperwork, paper, and red tape are all withdrawing cash money from our governmental funds. Those funds are our tax dollars, which should be going to our educational and development programs. According to the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, liquor may be involved in as many as half the traffic fatalities that occur in the United States. Try contacting the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and see what statistical information they could send you for free. When contacting them, remember, any gang with the word bureau in it uses red tape to hold everything together, so be patient and tenacious. In any religion, you have do's and don'ts. There are scriptures, commandments, and sunnahs to guide you along the righteous path in life. Yet alcohol is even in the churches. You can be served wine for free in some churches. While I strongly believe in a supreme being, I disagree with hypocrites. There are many good preachers, ministers, clergy, priests, and imams who would probably agree with me, but there are also those with the holy book in one hand and the bottle in the other. Be careful who you put your trust in. I remember when I was about 14 years old, we would get several quarts of Old English 800. Talk about cheap. This stuff was the cheapest we could get, but it was potent. We would drink until we threw up sometimes. Then we would drink some more. We played all sorts of games where the loser had to take a drink. I remember one time I got so inebriated I had to call my wife to come and pick me up. The worst part was that I was in uniform. Because I was a recruiter for the Air Force with an office located in downtown Philadelphia, it did not matter if I was off the clock. If I had been seen by the wrong people, I would have been in the newspapers the next day. Air Force recruiter Staff Sergeant Bullock was too drunk to walk while vomiting in the street. I would have brought discredit upon the Air Force, my country, my family, my friends, and myself. Thank goodness for close friends who did not let that happen. Looking back on my drinking days, I try to search for one thing positive about drinking. I cannot find anything positive about drinking that would not have been better if I had not drank. There are many myths surrounding alcohol which many people believe in. One myth that has been perpetrated for a long time is drinking to keep warm. Actually, drinking lowers rather than raises the body temperature. There is an illusion of heat because alcohol causes the capillaries to dilate and fill with blood. In very cold weather, drinking alcoholic beverages can lead to frostbite. Generally, the person drinking is usually too drunk to realize his body's warning signs before hurting himself. If you can go through life without having to drink alcohol, you are better off than those that do. However, if you cannot, please drink responsibly, if there is such a thing. Cigarettes. Cigarettes is another type of drug that I used to do. Unlike the alcohol, I was addicted to cigarettes. I started smoking at age 12. We would sneak and do it whenever we could. After a few years, I was hooked. There are several reasons why I started. Perhaps the most logical reason was because my mother smoked. I remember telling her to quit when I was about 7 or 8. She said she would give me and my brother Bernard 1 quarter every time we caught her smoking. That did not last long. I recall while living in the projects, when we were about 4 or 5, my mother would put us to bed, and if we were good, she would twirl the cigarettes around with the lights out. We would watch the red part glow and move about as if it were magic. What a treat. Perhaps commercials, perhaps peer pressure, perhaps the glamour. Whatever started me smoking, it was not good. Cigarettes have also killed more people than the tobacco companies care to admit. Smokers suffer 65% more colds, 167% more nose and throat irritations, and have a 300% greater incidence of chronic coughs than non-smokers. It is even possible to go blind from smoking too heavily. A condition known as amblyopia, in which a person's sight grows progressively dimmer, is directly attributed to excessive use of cigarettes. The cure is usually quite simple. Stop smoking. The amount of nicotine the average pack-a-day smoker inhales in a week, 400 milligrams, would kill a person instantly if it were taken in all at once. My father-in-law died because of cigarettes. We watched him slowly fade away over several months in the hospital from cancer. Just before he died, he told my wife and I we were going to have a boy. He was right. Although quitting the habit of smoking was very difficult for me, the real test is to never pick another one up. I've seen many people try to quit, and I have come to a hypothesis on quitting a bad habit. You can only quit if you have a strong enough reason to quit. I read lots of literature on the harmful and lasting effects smoking causes, but the two most important reasons I quit are still vividly in my mind to this day. One reason was because a friend who had stopped for over 10 years told me that he can look at anyone and tell if they smoked because they start to develop skin blotches around the back of the neck. He said he could also tell approximately how long that person smoked or how much they smoked by how widespread these blotches were. I began to see these blotches on people who smoked, but not on me yet. Perhaps there was hope after all. The other reason, which was the one that made me throw away all ashtrays, lighters, cigarette cases, and any other cigarette paraphernalia I possessed, was my son and daughter. My daughter walked up to me for a hug when she was about 2 years old while I had a lit cigarette in my hand. She came at me so fast I did not have time to react. I burned her forehead and she started crying. Every day I had to look at my pretty little daughter knowing I had disfigured her unsacred skin. After several weeks of that incident haunting me, I quit. I was afraid of that incident happening again. Since then, I have witnessed careless acts of smokers, and every time I see such an act, it reminds me of how I once burned Shanae. She has since healed, and there is no trace of the burn. If you were to search your mind, I am sure you could list many careless acts you may have seen or heard of. Burn stains in the ceiling of cars, the burn marks on bed lining, tables and floors, fires, death by accidental fires, etc. Cigarettes also have a distinct smell that never seems to go away. Generally, if you are a smoker, you do not notice it. To a non-smoker, the smell is as present as a men's bathroom that has never been cleaned. It stinks. The smell gets into your clothing, hanging in the closet, so no matter what you wear, people will know you are a smoker. It stains the ceiling and walls brown with a film that is difficult to remove. It gets into the air conditioning system of your house and car so that every time you turn on the air conditioner, the cigarette smell circulates and permeates your breathing air with a distinct odor. When people who smoke talk to you, sometimes their breath can be so foul-smelling like tar, you tend to keep a comfortable distance away from them so as not to smell it. As a matter of fact, a person who smokes 1 pack of cigarettes a day inhales a half cup of tar every year. Even if you shake a smoker's hand, it is present. The smoker has just transferred the smell to you with their handshake. Don't smoke. Medically and aesthetically, it is not good for you. Chewing tobacco, dipping snuff, or putting any type of tobacco products in your system for that matter is hazardous to your health. You can get cancer of the gums from chewing that stuff. If the Surgeon General of the United States has issued a printed warning on the packages of all the products and you still insist on using it, you have a fundamental problem. After I finally quit smoking, I began to feel better. Although I had gained 10 pounds, I began to smell things I had not smelled in a long time. My food tasted better and my stamina increased. I was finally a non-smoker. My life insurance policy premium decreased. I had more money in my pocket because cigarettes were $1.25 per pack, and at 10 packs a week, that was a considerable savings over a period of time. The list of benefits from quitting goes on and on. I feel like I was freed. Son, if you ever feel the temptation to smoke, or if ever you are pressured by your so-called friends to smoke, think about how it affected your grandfather and me. Cancer can truly shorten your lifespan. There is nothing good about smoking. The average smoker, the smoker who inhales 1.5 packs of cigarettes a day, smokes 10,950 cigarettes a year. A heavy smoker may smoke as many as 30,000 cigarettes a year. A non-stop chain smoker may smoke as many as 40,000 cigarettes a year. All the reasons anyone can give you to smoke are just lies. People smoke because they are addicted to the drug. It is not for nerves, not for weight loss, and not to calm them down. It is all a crutch because they are afraid of facing the reality that they are drug addicts. They are weak-minded individuals caught in the web of destruction. In the 1950s, the government helped to promote cigarette usage. Radio and television advertised cigarettes as being the in thing. It was hip to be a smoker. Now the government is spending lots of our money trying to clean up the mess it helped to create. Don't smoke. Smoking will kill you and others around you. Don't just say no, mean no. Illegal drugs. As for marijuana, hash, crack, cocaine, ice, acid, black beauties, uppers, downers, and all the other exotic stuff on the market, it is unnecessary. Your body has natural chemicals, which, if caused to shift off balance, could be detrimental to your health. I have known personal friends who died from drugs, some physically dead and some brain dead. I have one friend who was a promising athlete. He even won the Golden Gloves as a boxer. Now he walks the streets like a dazed zombie, existing like a vegetable. I feel sorry for him, but he did it to himself. Perhaps if he had a better father around, handling fatherly responsibilities, he would have become that promising athlete. It is a shame. Look at the life of Brother Malcolm X. He started off with his father present, which implanted the desire to be a lawyer in his mind. He wanted to be a great man, a righteous man. After he lost his father, the lack of fatherly guidance was reflected in his negative direction and newfound ambitions of crime. While in prison, he gained a new father, Elijah Muhammad, who put him back on track. He studied the truth and began to teach his brothers. Every time he uncovered new truths, he shared them with everyone. Each of us must make our own choices in life, but when the truth is revealed, we should at least listen. Son, it is all poison. While the government is spending millions of dollars trying to define and deal with the problems, they are wasting good tax money. My money, your money. I am here to tell you to deal with the symptom. Educate yourself on drugs and its effects on the body. Go to the library and research the drugs on the streets. Learn their chemical makeup and harmful effects. Use the knowledge to teach yourself and your friends the truth. You are a descendant of kings. That means you have responsibilities. If you do drugs, then all the younger people who look to you for guidance will also do drugs. If you sell drugs, then all the young people who look up to you for guidance will also sell drugs. Conversely, if you do well in school and become successful on your own terms with your own talents, then likewise will the younger people who look to you for guidance. The cycle of negative or positive growth starts with you. Make the right choice. Selling drugs. As for selling and dealing drugs, it is a rough life. Many of my former classmates from school and neighborhood friends are selling drugs. A few of them are doing extremely well financially. They have nice clothes, expensive cars, a wad of money in their pocket, and babies. On the surface, it all looks good. But all that glitters is not necessarily gold. They have to watch their back 24 hours a day. Not only must they watch their back, they must look out for their families as well. By dealing drugs, they put their mothers, brothers, sisters, and whomever else is close to them in danger. People's mothers have been killed because their children were dealing or using drugs. Speaking of death, generally a drug dealer's career is short-lived. If they're not caught and jailed for a few years, generally they stand a pretty good chance of having a short life. Since competition is the number one factor in the decrease or increase of the profit margin, logic tells you, if you take out your competition, you will increase your profits. The laws of economics causes the dealer to kill or be killed. I could go on and on attacking the drug dealers. However, it is also necessary in their defense that I explain how they ended up as dealers. Reverting back to the father, many did not have a stable home. Although you will hear statistics point out many other factors, the bottom line is that by the time they become teenagers, their mothers cannot control them. Without parental control, teenagers are privileged to choose their own path. If you choose not to do your homework, if you choose not to study and achieve in school, if you choose to cut classes and hang out rather than hang in, if you choose not to listen to the experiences and wisdom of positive people, then your choices for employment are very slim. You lack the qualifications to get hired in the so-called real world, so you seek employment in the underworld. Because your ability to read is not at the level it should be, filling out applications can be a scary, demeaning, and intimidating experience. Because the system is extremely stereotypical, employers are afraid to hire you if you look like the image that frightens them, or the one that attacked them and stole from them once upon a time. On the flip side, one of my closest cousins went to school, received a bachelor's degree, a master's in business administration, MBA, and got a well-paying, stable job with all the perks as a pharmaceutical sales representative, drug dealer, for one of the largest companies in the industry. After a few years, he was so good, another pharmaceutical company gave him a better offer to come work for them as their Mac Daddy over all the other sales representatives. Now he is making 6 figures plus. I told you the government was the largest drug dealer in the world. What is the difference? Good question. Although I am not qualified professionally to answer that question, as a father, I am compelled to give you a truthful reply based on my experience. The government has the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, FDA, Food and Drug Administration, and other organizations to attempt to control the harmful effects and side effects drugs can cause to the human body. They also have the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, and other organizations to monitor and control the legal exchange of these drugs. There are also millions of rules and regulations governing the sale, purchase, and consumption of these drugs. This all spells control. There's a large control factor involved, which is designed to keep us safe. Now let's look at the street side of the house. The street does not have any organizations checking its harmful effects or side effects. If someone is distributing bad drugs, you can best believe that there will not be a recall or restitution made to the victims. Should a death occur from drug usage, I am sure the drugs will not be pulled from distribution. There are organizations controlling the exchange of the drugs, but most of them are not legal. As for the rules of the game, it depends on what level you are at. The higher the level, the more rules you have to play by. The lower the level, the less rules you have to play by. The killing problem is generally at the lower levels because as dealers move up, they do not adapt to the new rules. They continue to operate by the old rules, survival of the fittest. However, any killings at the higher levels are usually done after calculated thought, not arbitrary. History. Drugs have been around and will always be around. It is said that some of our well-known candy factories years ago used to coat their candies with drugs, causing kids to become addicted, thus constantly coming back for more. Sugar and cocaine seem to have very similar effects. Speaking of cocaine, it is said that Benjamin Franklin and others of that time used cocaine quite regularly. As a matter of fact, both George Washington and Thomas Jefferson grew cannabis sativa, marijuana, on their plantations. It is also said that the Indians never smoked until it was introduced by Europeans, and the peace pipe contained more than tobacco to ease the mind. In 1865, opium was grown in the state of Virginia, and a product was distilled from it that yielded 4% morphine. In 1867, it was grown in Tennessee. 6 years later, it was cultivated in Kentucky. During these years, opium, marijuana, and cocaine could be purchased legally over the counter from any druggist. Remember the world-renowned and famous movie The Wizard of Oz? Think hard. What did the Wicked Witch use to put Dorothy and her companions to sleep? Poppy. Poppy will put them to sleep, she said. What is poppy? Any of various plants having showy red, violet, orange, or white flowers as the opium poppy. The flower of the poppy in art is the symbol of sleep or death. I have told you all this information to give you a foundation of knowledge to use as you contemplate decisions concerning drugs. Whether it is legal or illegal, before having anything to do with drugs, it is incumbent upon you to think. Remember, tobacco and alcohol are both legal drugs. However, they are as harmful as the illegal drugs. Whether you are a pharmaceutical sales representative or a local drug dealer, trafficker, drugs are big business for big dollars, which can cause big problems. History tells us that drugs have always been around, but the present tells us we have not learned from that history. We are still repeating the mistakes made in the past. Drugs can do a lot of things. Some save lives and some take lives. Just as with the gun, the real power of drugs is not in the drug itself. It lies within us, how we choose to use it and administer it.